feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college rule!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here, and before we begin, as always, just a couple comics here in Tucson, Arizona, who love sports, talking about sports. So if you could do us a huge favor after watching this video, make sure you like it, and then follow, share, and subscribe to our channel on all podcast platforms. And now that we've crossed the 300 Rubicon, Chris, who do we have today?
We are talking about an NBA player that maybe should have had a better career, but injury kind of derailed it a little. We're not talking about my grandma. We're not talking about your grandmama. We're talking about everybody's Mr. Larry Johnson.
Grandmama Johnson. Oh, man. He would have been, and he had a great career.
No,
Like,
it was,
all things
but
considered, it was like, yeah.
He changed up his game, but he kind of stopped being the high-flying guy that we knew from college. And you can just kind of tell, especially towards like year 8, where you're like, oh, he's not going up at all anymore.
At the beginning of his career, he was like a Ric Flair rant. That's
Ooh,
that's how you could describe it.
That's
But
what I like.
We'll get into it. So Larry Johnson, Larry Demetric Johnson, born March 14th, 1969 in Tyler, Texas, and grows up in Dallas.
Yep.
Grows up in Dallas in the Dixon Circle housing projects of South Dallas. Very dangerous area. His mom, Dorothy, and, well, let's just say it's kind of a miracle he made it out, but it was basketball which got him out of there.
And it was basketball because, and you wouldn't guess this by the height he ended with, but in 7th grade, he was 6'2", 200 pounds. So
Oh, my God.
that was something that I was like, he really only grew like 4 more inches.
Yeah.
From 7th grade to, he didn't hit that next growth spurt.
If he hit that next growth spurt, he could have been like 7'8".
Yes, exactly.
Like you see a lot of these guys.
Yes.
Like, what was it? David Robinson wasn't even 6 feet when he
No,
got to high school.
That's what I mean. He was one of those guys that really hit his growth spurt really early. In 7th grade, I heard that other parents were like, there's no way this man is a child.
In 7th grade, the teachers were trying to get him into the teacher's lounge, asking for him for smokes.
That's right.
He was holding his own parent. No, he wasn't. But anyway, he would play basketball all day and all night in the projects.
Yep.
And drugs and alcohol, he tried to completely avoid that. Like, he knew exactly what he wanted out of life and knew exactly what his meal ticket out of, the Dixon Circle housing project was.
And knew he was going to be good enough to achieve that.
Yeah, he had talked about on Friday nights he'd hang out with his buddy, and they would ignore all of the parties. They would hang out, shoot hoops, eat pizza, and eat ice cream and hang out.
Yep.
Which I think is, of all of the terrible things he could have gotten himself into, he stayed really on as straight and narrow as you possibly could.
Yes. No, he really did an amazing job to get out of there.
I saw that, oddly, out of respect, the criminal element in the area did not even want him involved in what they were doing.
Yeah, because they knew he could be a great basketball player, so they were like, no, you stay away.
Yes, exactly. And choosing a high school was pretty interesting. I don't know if you read anything about that, where he was supposed to go to his local high school in Dallas in that projects area, but he ended up going to Skyline High School.
And they ended up having, because he talked his way essentially onto the varsity team as a freshman when he was just like, no, I'm good enough to play. And then they proceeded to not lose a home game for 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
So,
because what was it? He played in the freshman game, and he asked the coach, hey, you should probably put me on varsity. He's
Yes.
like, well, I'll put him on you know what? I'm just going to start him and see what happens.
Yep.
What did I read? He was 8 for 8 and 11 or 1 from 1 from the foul line. Came to the sideline and said, "Coach, how am I doing?" Oh God! You know who went to Skyline High School?
No, who?
I read Michael Johnson, gold medal sprinter.
Gold medal sprinter.
Yeah,
Nice. That's
So-
pretty wild.
pretty awesome. So he starts all 4 years. He's the top-rated prospect as a senior. Consensus All-American, McDonald's, all the All-Americans.
Yep.
Because, he's 6'7", about, 230, 40 pounds. Just an awesome, combo forward coming out of high school. And you're thinking, man, he could pick anywhere he wants to go for college. And now we get really interesting with this.
Because he signs a letter of intent to SMU, correct?
Yeah, which is not like basketball powerhouse
No.
at all.
But his SATs aren't up to what it needs to be.
Yeah, for the Prop 48.
Yes.
Because you're kind of teetering on that level.
And then he retakes them,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't accept them.
No, because he passed the second time,
Yes.
and then people at SMU were like, that looks suspicious. And you're thinking, did they do it like that? Or did they, that looks suspicious.
Well, they said that Skyline was under investigation for fixing players' grades and SAT scores for football and basketball, and that's literally what SMU said. And then, to Larry Johnson's credit,
I love this, honestly.
he goes to a JUCO school in Odessa.
Yeah, he
And-
never even checked it out.
No,
He
he
just
didn't
knew
know the
someone
coach's
from
name.
South
Yes.
Dallas went there. He's like, I'm just gonna go there. I'm gonna
Yes.
play. I saw that after he made later in his life, after making this decision when Prop 48 was still a thing,
Mm-hmm.
he would basically campaign and tell these kids if they didn't have the grades, fuck wasting a year of eligibility.
Yeah,
Go play and get your books in order at a place where you can actually you can play, but you can also go into smaller classes, a lot better environment to actually help you.
to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not just being placed automatically in these undergraduate courses you might not be ready for. Just go and play, realize your dream. At least you can still play.
And the thing I always thought was what he said was so correct about going to junior college was he was just like, I didn't realize there was going to be any kind of competition, and it was actually really great basketball, because what everybody I feel like thinks before they watch it, they're just like, well, these guys suck.
Oh, right.
And it's more of no, they just kind of maybe messed up grades. They just it's just various
Criminal
things.
something.
Yes,
Yeah.
to where you're just like, no, they just need a small introduction back into this college life, and then they can kind of get going, which is exactly what Larry Johnson does.
And we've seen JUCO guys before, like Nick Van Exel.
Yeah.
You have these guys, granted, Larry's dad wasn't pulling the whole fake out on him, Dennis Reynolds style.
Yep.
But no, so he goes to Odessa Junior College, and even though, he had talked about the competition actually he lights everybody up because
Yes,
he's
he is.
much more talented.
He's a Division I starter at a JUCO, but he even said he was just like, it wasn't as bad as everybody thinks.
No, because unlike Nick Van Exel, where he's screwing around, he's just like, I'm here to just go to class and play basketball.
Yes, to get my grades up to where I can go to one of these top colleges, and he does.
Yeah. So he was the National Junior College Player of the Year 2 years in a row,
Yep.
freshman, sophomore year. Averaged over 29 points a game as a sophomore. And people were talking about then, if he left for the NBA, he would have been a lottery pick.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fascinating.
Out
to
of
me.
junior college.
So, yeah, that 88-89 season, if he had entered that was the Sean Elliott draft, I
Yep.
think. So that
Yep.
would have been interesting to see where he would have ended up, because it wasn't necessarily a top-heavy draft. He would have been one of those Sean Kemp guys almost, where you're just like, I'm gambling all on athletic potential.
Yes. On this guy actually becoming the player we think he is, not who he is right now.
Yeah, being awesome, not some white guy from Duke that always just craters.
Yep.
So in 89-90, though, he goes D1, and he goes to the perfect program for him. And just college basketball in general, right?
The perfect fraternity.
The perfect fraternity. Not Phi Slamma Jamma. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Going to UNLV, and they're already stacked.
Yes.
They're already stacked. You got Greg Anthony, Stacey Ogman, Anderson Hunt, and Jerry Tarkanian leading the way. And his first year there, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
And the style of play is exactly the style he was playing at that time. Very high flying, very athletic, and that's the
Up
thing
and down the floor.
Yes, the thing that everybody says was why he isn't going to be such a great player, because he was 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah.
That was his height. So he was a smaller power forward, but he was faster, stronger, because he's just made of muscle at 225.
And he could just get above the rim. He's not going to
So
be
athletic.
He's not going to rebound like a Rodman or a Barkley.
No,
but he will get up and down the floor on those fast breaks, and he can. While he eventually gets better, he gets still okay at hitting outside shots.
Yes.
So he's a unique player, but you're like, this guy could easily play in the league.
Yes.
With this type of athletic ability. So his first year averages over 20 and 11. They go 35-5 and are second in the AP poll. They win the Big West regular season championship and tournament championship, and they're a number 1 seed in the West. And they go into the tournament hot, too.
Yes.
Like, there's really no stopping them, and the disparity between their athletic ability and the rest of college basketball is pretty ridiculous. So they go all the way to the Final Four after beating Loyola Marymount by 30 in the Elite Eight. And then they beat Georgia Tech in the semifinal, and then they set up one of the best national championship games ever.
Well, I feel like this team was so much more athletic than everybody and so much better. They crushed Duke at the time, and I think it still holds up, is the biggest win. They won by the biggest amount of points by any team. It was like 103 to like 78 or some shit.
Oh, yeah, 103-73. They beat them by 30.
Yeah. So, like, it was such a ridiculous blowout and that was the other thing. They were scoring so many more points than everybody.
Yeah, because, the Loyola Marymount game where they played a similar style of basketball,
Yep.
If you can get these ACC teams or these, even Pac-10 teams up and down the floor like that, you're going to tire them out.
Yep.
He had 22 points and 11 rebounds, and they won the national championship. And you'd figure he probably could have left after that year if he wanted to. But going into 90-91, if you listen to episode 51, we've got some scandals.
Yep.
We've got some mischief going on at UNLV.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody thinks Shaq made his money in Orlando, but no. He made it in college.
You think Grandmama got rich playing in Charlotte?
Exactly.
No. He made his fortune in Vegas in a hot tub.
So this is the summer in which they were like, hey, ton of violations. We're actually going to give you like a suspended sentence because we know these guys should be able to run it back, is essentially what they were saying.
Listen to our Massimino episode if you want to see the fallout from all of this season.
So they come back the next year and go undefeated until their conference championship.
Yeah,
because they went 27-0 in the regular season. Lost one in the regular season. This is how they won every single game by double digits except for one.
That's insane.
Yeah,
and then people are like, "Oh, they played in the Big West." It's not that they were winning these games. It was like. It was like Kramer when he had to fight children.
Yes.
That was like the disparity in how good these teams were, these UNLV teams were. So they're the number 1 overall seed. They're the number 1 overall seed in the West, and they just start rolling it to the Final Four.
Yep.
And they're kicking the crap out of people. Montana, Georgetown, Utah, Seton Hall. And then we get to the Final Four in Indianapolis where they get the Duke rematch.
And
This one makes me a very sad panda.
maybe a little lopsided officiating.
A little bit.
But
only a little bit.
Right at the end of the game, and it's so telling, is they don't go to Mr. Grandmama.
No.
And I forgot who. It wasn't Stacy, but somebody missed a three-pointer to...
I think it was Anderson Hunt.
I think it was Anderson. But it was something like that where you're just like, he's your star. He needs to touch the ball on the final possession. He doesn't. It's like an air ball or like really missed shot, and Duke actually ends up beating him in a game that they shouldn't have won.
That's the one you let get away. That's like the 07 Patriots and Giants, where you're just like, how the hell did this happen?
Yep.
Bobby Hurley just has such a punchable face.
Oh, I hate Bobby Hurley.
Just that, and now that he's at ASU, and
Jesus.
God. So they lose 79-77. What if they won though? What if they won? Like they ran it back and they won. Do you think the NCAA would have been like, all right, go for a three-peat?
That would have been awesome.
I've always because I always thought like, are they gonna fuck these guys? Granted, almost all of them left after this season.
Yes.
So I think that's probably why they did it. Where they're like, well, they can't come back.
Yes, it was more of like, we'll give these stars one more run, and then we're just gonna bury this program.
Because I've always figured in their best interest, because they're not the NCAA are not stupid people.
No, they know
people are going to want to tune in to watch Larry Johnson
Yes.
in these nationally televised games for
Yep.
one more year. And he's not getting paid. I mean, by the
There you go.
university as much as he made him. So he finishes his senior year averaging almost 23 and 11. He's the John Wooden and Naismith Award winner, first team All-American. You're 6'7", 250, and they're your projected number 1 pick in the NBA draft. Like, that's quite a journey from starting off in the projects in Dallas.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, this is Cinderella already
Yes.
when you think about it. And we get into the 91 NBA draft. We talked about we had an episode on a guy who was in this draft, if you remember. Mutombo.
Mr. Dikembe, who goes third.
I thought third or fourth, yeah.
Or fourth. Yeah.
Denver.
But he goes fourth because there was another guy in there that totally crapped out.
Billy Owens. Yeah, then Kenny Anderson.
Yep,
Mhm.
and Kenny Anderson. Yeah, but it is one of those things where they were saying he's undersized for the NBA, but blah, blah, blah. And the Charlotte Hornets were just like, no. He's going to be our star.
Look, we've got Steph Curry's dad and Muggsy Bogues.
Yep.
And nothing else.
Yeah.
Let's just take the most athletic guy in this class, and he's going to do good for us.
Yes.
Like I think that was the only type of thing they needed to look at as far as
God, he was amazing right out of the gate because I feel like he needed to be a star on a team, and he was. And you look at his rookie season, and you're just like, geez, here we go.
And you think about it, like for him, this is a perfect scenario because it's not really a veteran team with a lot of like guys that are like established in the league. Like you have guys like Bogues and Del Curry, but they're not like commanding a locker, and they're just like, no, this guy's awesome. Let's play with him.
Yes.
So
yes.
First overall pick goes out and wins the NBA Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
And we had kind of talked about this before the podcast. In these first few years that he plays where he's in tip-top physical condition, you're like, the NBA doesn't really have anybody like this.
Well, and that was the other thing because obviously Charlotte is a smaller market, and they said that he really like proved to everybody in the slam dunk competition because this was back when the guys actually tried in the slam dunk competition, and they were like, this guy is a high-flying machine, and then that kind of like built him where people were just like, I'm going to watch a Hornets game just to see what Larry Johnson's doing.
Styling, profiling. He would have been the fifth horseman.
Ooh, here we go.
So he averages just over 19 and 11 that year. Like you said, finished second in the slam dunk contest. And although Charlotte is pretty crappy, 92-93 heading into that draft, they just miss out on the first pick, who would have been Shaq.
Who was already rich from college.
Who was already rich. He hadn't gotten those penile enhancements yet, as we don't know. We're on episode 301, and we don't know.
We don't know.
Shaq, please tell us.
And this is probably one of those, when you look at where people land, because Charlotte ends up getting Alonzo Mourning.
Which is probably the best consolation prize if you look at the modern draft in NBA history.
Amazing center that can
Hall of Famer.
That can complement him as a power forward. I mean, sometimes, combo forward, whatever you want to call it. But they hated each other.
Oh, yes, they did.
And that's what I mean by like the luck of the draw of getting somebody, because I feel like Shaq's personality would have been better with Larry Johnson.
Absolutely.
There's like shit like that where you're just like, oh man, if they had gotten that first pick, they get Alonzo Mourning, and they said that literally like first day they were getting under each other, like being just dickheads to each other, trying to like alpha each other out.
Well, Larry had talked, or I read a story where Larry would wear his Rookie of the Year jacket around the locker room.
Yep.
When Alonzo Mourning was there and being like, hey, maybe you should get yourself one of those. And he's not going to win Rookie of the Year over effing Shaq.
Nope.
Come on. I mean, yeah, Hall of Famer, granted, but still, you're not Shaq.
No, yes, and there is that difference of when you come into the league.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson's not winning Rookie of the Year when Shaq's there.
No.
You know what I mean? It's such a luck of the draw.
It's like that Tim Duncan draft. It's like, who the hell else are you going to put out there, for Christ's sake?
So they actually play very well together, very
On the
complimentary.
court, it's great.
On the court.
because they complement each other well.
Yes, off the court, they said there were kind of dust-ups in practice. There was like stuff like that where you're just like, ooh, this isn't going to end well.
So I'll get into it later, but that reflects to me, and this is why I loved that era of basketball. Not necessarily where you're trying to screw the guys over, but like if those two played together today and they had that mentality of today, they would have been like, well, let's get a third guy. Let's get a third guy in here. I don't, like, it was alpha dog against alpha dog.
Yep.
When you think about it and you're like, if LeBron James had done, no way, not a chance.
Yep.
Like, no, that was the mentality of guys in the league in that era. I feel like guys who
Like,
were,
I'm the best, and then the other guy's like, I'm the best.
I'm going to get that one guaranteed contract, and you're going to be playing in the G League or whatever.
Yes.
Like, or whatever the equivalent was. But 92-93, they really break through. Larry makes the All-Star team, 22.1 points a game and 10.5 rebounds, and they make the playoffs for the first time. And in their first playoff series, they beat the Celtics on a game-winning shot by Alonzo. They play the Knicks, though, in the next round.
And get smoked.
Yeah, I mean, but that was, prime Knicks.
And this is the offseason in which Larry signs a big contract.
Mm-hmm. He's on the cover of Slam
He's
magazine.
on Slam magazine, and it's one of those contracts that you don't see anymore, where it's like 12 years for 82 million, whatever it was. But this is when the real wedge started becoming between him and Alonzo, where Alonzo was like, I had better playoff games than him, and I felt like I had a better year than him.
Yeah.
And you're not giving me this giant contract. I believe it was the owner.
Yes, I saw that.
Came out and said, this is Larry Johnson's team.
He's our best player.
He's our best player.
And then the general manager said, basically to the extent that he's not even the best player on our team. And he didn't say who else it was, but you can obviously,
Yep.
Yep. No offense, Muggsy Bogues and Del Curry.
No, it's not you.
It's not you. And that year, the deal with Converse.
And here we go with this.
Let's talk about this.
So I thought it was actually interesting. He thought Nike was going to come in.
Yeah.
And he said he waited the entire offseason for Nike to come in, and it's getting close to the season. And Converse comes in with this presentation of what it's going to be, which was his shoes. And then they were going to have Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, who were
Converse before.
Were the Converse guys in the 80s, and they were going to be acting like they were building this basketball player that was Larry Johnson.
Oh,
and then they argue over his name. So they were like, we're going to call him Larry. And then Magic Johnson's like, we're going to call him Johnson. And that was the presentation that they gave him, that this is how we're going to promote this shoe. This is it. And then it gets to when they're finally going to shoot the commercial. And he goes, it was like a week before. And they're like, so you're wearing a girdle. And he goes, what? And then they were like, so we changed our idea for this promotion. And this is literally what he said. He just goes, Converse paid me $1 million. I had already spent it. I couldn't refute. They had me. I couldn't say like no to this deal. It was already done.
So what you're telling me is this commercial was Medea got game?
Oh, dude.
I mean, that's exactly.
God.
But they were hilarious. Those commercials were hilarious.
They were iconic and probably better than the Magic Larry ones.
Yeah, Grandmama, like, because that would have been like, oh, yeah, that's his last name. Nope, he's out there in a damn moo-moo dunking on people.
Yes.
Oh, loved it.
It became iconic.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing, was like, Converse was technically right with this, but for him, he was like, I felt backed into a corner. I was like, I guess we're doing this.
Nobody puts Grandmama on a corner.
God.
But like he's this iconic NBA figure. I saw that when he signed that $84 million contract. That was the same day Michael Jordan retired.
Yep.
It was almost like we are ushering in a new era of the NBA because he's got the 2 seasons under his belt, already the Rookie of the Year, an All-Star. You're thinking it could be the next Air Jordan.
Yeah.
And
he has that high-flying, yes.
Not necessarily the same game, but just like the same type of sizzle reel that you want that's marketable. So in 93-94, it's a bit of a rough year because December 27th, he suffers a back injury. And this back injury starts kind of nagging him. And He misses some time. Guys on the roster miss some time, and they only go 500 and they miss the playoffs. And the problem with that is he doesn't really rehab it.
No,
because what happens that summer?
So that summer, it's the FIBA World Championships, and he really wants to play on this Dream Team 2 is what they were calling
His
it.
buddy Alonzo.
With his buddy Alonzo.
Dominique
this is very
Wilkins.
true. Yep.
This is like the B team.
It really was.
And even though they're the B team, it's still littered with Hall of Famers.
Yeah, go wins gold. But it was, and this is what people said. They were like, he should have taken that summer off to rehab his back. He didn't. It was an injury that went throughout the rest of his career.
Which is sad.
But he wouldn't have won a gold if he didn't go. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, I doubt he regrets it. But at the same time, he ends up he becomes a different player 95 on.
And that's what always weirds me out about him is because when you watch him at UNLV and you watch those first few years with Charlotte, you're just like, what could this guy have evolved into?
Yep.
Granted, he evolved into something also pretty damn good.
He was great.
It's just a different play. It's like when Satchel Paige had that arm injury. It's I won't say he's junk balling it, but he had to learn how to have an outside shot.
Yes.
He had to learn different
he
qualities
became
of his game.
A different player.
Yeah. So in 94, 95, obviously concentrating more on his outside shooting. And then 95, 96, he combines for 19.7 points a game, 7.8 rebounds. He's an all-star, 95, 96.
And this is when they trade Alonzo.
Yes.
Because they couldn't strike a deal with him because Alonzo wanted to be paid a lot of money. He wanted 13 a year for then was top.
Yeah, 13 a year. I think that's what Brian Scalabrine is making.
Yeah, right now. But that was like top for back then. They could only offer him 11 or 11.2 or some shit. So they ended up trading him to the Heat.
Did you see anything involved with that? Like why it kind of went tits up from the beginning?
No.
So then before the 95 season, there was a lockout in the NBA.
Oh, and he was restricted.
Yeah,
yes,
so that was
yes,
what happened. I think that's what happened with Shaq's contract too, because they were in the same draft year.
Yep.
Is everybody from that draft class? You were a free agent a year earlier, so he didn't want to play that last year of his deal, or only have one more year remaining.
Yep.
So that's why he was seeking a trade, because he's like, I'm not going to play for what I'm not worth, and at that point. Charlotte's like, look, we have to trade him, even though they probably should have ponied up the money. And Johnson was pissed when they traded him.
Yeah,
because they got nothing of value.
No.
I mean, granted, you get Glenn Rice, but
it still wasn't. Yeah.
In that era of if it were now, yeah, you'd want Glenn Rice. And Glenn Rice, I think he might even be in the Hall of Fame. But for that era, you need a dominant
big man
center,
especially having Larry Johnson be an undersized power forward
who can't do the things that he used to do with that consistency anymore.
So this all starts to fall apart in Charlotte.
Yes. So Alonzo's with the Heat. They lose in 94, 95. It's sad because I think they won over 50 games that year, and they drew the. Oh man, I just got done beating the effing Toon Squad Jordan Bulls.
I know.
Which is like, come on, man.
That was unfair.
That sucked. In 96, they don't even make the playoffs at all. And yeah, they fucked up. They fucked up with the morning thing. And 96, by the end of the 96 season, he's done in Charlotte.
Yep, he gets traded to the old Knickerbockers.
Which is, you had both of them.
I know.
And I guess it goes to show in sports like how you better strike while the iron is hot, because you never know how long it's going to last.
That's very true.
So he's traded for Brad Lowhouse and Anthony Mason, who, God, we should do an episode on him.
Anthony Mason,
Oh, man. Not only that dude's journey to the NBA, but his interesting behavior when he wasn't playing basketball.
Well, it wasn't a great trade for Charlotte. Anthony
terrible.
Mason, great player, but he's not a player that you could build around like a Larry Johnson.
No, and he's like that junkyard dog that the Knicks used to,
Yep.
throw out there to body people. Like he was Oakley's understudy, essentially.
Yes.
So he's playing small forward there. 96, 97. Knicks have a great year.
this is when he like pretty much officially moves and they're like, you're not going to play power forward. You can't jump.
Yeah.
Your outside shot really has come along, and it fills in so great with like Starks and Ewing and Oakley, and you know what I mean? So it's like this Knicks team, they lucked out on getting this Larry Johnson and becoming a third option.
And he fit right in.
Yes.
I mean, he fit right because, I mean, you got Houston, you got Starks.
Yep.
A little bit later, we'll get somebody even more electric on the roster.
I don't know if electric's the right word for Sprewell.
I was going to say choky, but, you know, I tried to be nice.
All right.
I tried to be nice. I mean, but those first 2 years combined, his numbers dip. He's only at about 14 and about 6 a game.
Because he isn't number one option.
No.
And I don't even really think he was number two.
No.
You look at like Houston and
Ewing.
And Ewing as number one.
Well, obviously. I'm
And
just
then-
talking about the
yeah.
ancillary pieces around.
Yes, exactly.
Patrick.
And
Yeah.
which I think just the way his body has, you know, kind of deteriorated a little bit, it was the perfect spot for him to go.
And that's the other thing about it. He's tough as shit.
Yes.
Like, he'll battle through injuries. Like, he'll win the respect of his teammates.
Yep.
So, I mean, he fit in quite well there. That 96-97 season, they're up 3-1 in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And because this spider web back into morning here.
I disagree with the league rule on
I
this
agree,
one.
100%.
So they get into a bit of a tussle.
May 14th, 97. And we talked about this in a previous episode.
Yep.
Because of the guy who gets bodied, Charlie Ward.
Charlie Ward.
Uh-huh.
And I believe it's Ewing, Starks, Johnson, and one other. I forget who it was.
P.J. Brown.
P.J.
and then
Brown.
Morning was also involved
and then
in
Morning.
the scuffle.
And
Yeah.
then, so I'm just saying, they get into this little scuffle. 4 guys from the Knicks get suspended.
4 important guys from the Knicks get suspended.
How about this? 4 starters.
Yeah.
And then, which should have been for Game 6, 4 should have been suspended. You have to dress 9 players.
Yeah.
So they said we're going to suspend 2 and then 2, which then just really screws them over even more.
To me, if it's a situation like that where it's both teams, you address that in the regular season next year.
Yeah.
Or you address it based on who advances in this series.
Yeah.
Like you do like a game 1 or 2, whatever. Like you play the rest of this shit out. And it really cost the Knicks because they lost the next 2 games.
They lost the next 2 games. They had 2 starters out in one, 2 starters out in the next.
And that would have been an interesting conference finals because they would have drawn Chicago.
Yep.
That, I think, would have been a lot more competitive than Miami because they're still a year or 2 away from really
Clicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The following year, though, 97-98, what do we get in round 1 when the teams play each other? Oh, God.
We get and
Larry's in this one, too.
we get Heat and Knicks again. And there's something that happens kind of off the ball. And boy, does the fists just start flying. We got a little Stan Van Gundy's
Jeff Van Gundy,
little
yeah.
brother comes out.
No, not the Ron Jeremy one. The one that looks like an out-of-work principal one.
And then he's just hanging on to Alonzo's leg like, ah. It's quite an iconic scene.
He's like a 5-year-old or a small koala on poor Alonzo.
Yes. But what happened to the Knicks the last year, Alonzo gets suspended for this next game.
Yeah.
And it's only Johnson, I believe, that gets suspended for the Knicks, and the Knicks just blow him out.
Yeah, in Game 5.
In Game 5. So it's like, it's almost the exact, like they almost like did the exact same thing to each other, which was kind of funny. But.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they got
They
one
got
after
got.
one after another.
So, yeah, the Knicks go all the way to the finals in this one.
No. This was the year before.
This is the year before.
So they lost to some Cheryl Miller energy.
Yes, you're right. They lost to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Championships, right? No.
The semifinal.
The semifinal.
Because that was the year that Pacers-Bulls series. That
Yes,
was just
jeez.
epic. Oh, man. I miss 90s basketball
know.
so much.
I know.
Now we get to be magically whisked away to Oklahoma City. Look, he's from Oklahoma.
It's just so bad.
Oh, God. Indianapolis and Oklahoma City. Oh, yeah, that's the matchup the NBA wants.
Yep,
and
that's
what
what-
everyone wants to see.
That's what we're all waiting for, a Pacers Thunder final.
Bring your cousins. All right, so 98-99, we get the lockout because it's the NBA.
Yep.
And this really should have been the Knicks year, but you're missing Ewing. You essentially
Broke his wrist, essentially.
you swap out Ewing for Sprewell, which, it's different, but it's somehow effective for an extended period of time. They sneak into the postseason. Larry has a bit of a this is when it starts to decline for him. I mean, he's only at 12-6, and God, now he's in his age 30 season.
Yeah.
You can really tell that his back is
Bad.
yeah.
Chronically bad. That's the other thing that people said, that you could really start to see it in when he was wearing a Knicks uniform, that every time he would go up, he would almost wince.
You're playing like a grandmama. Like
Yes.
that, like
Unfortunately, that
sadly.
yeah.
So they sneak into the postseason, and it's the 8 seed. And I think that's what's kind of lost is how incredible they were these first 3 rounds of the playoffs and how great Larry was.
They just were a better team than the regular season showed.
Yeah.
That was like the big thing.
So they beat the Heat, upset them in 5 games. They sweep the Hawks,
Yep.
and then they beat Cheryl Miller's brother in the Eastern Conference Finals. He had a big play in the Game 3, though. Do you remember that? The
No, which one?
4-point play?
Oh, the 4-point play.
Yeah.
Jesus, the 4-point play. Well, I thought it was interesting. He even said, he just goes, we inbounded the ball, and the only thing I had in my mind was shoot. And
Yeah.
he takes this 3-point shot, obviously gets fouled, and drains it. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing play, and then hits the free throw for them to go up, and yeah.
I wish he did the choking thing to Cheryl Miller's
Oh,
brother.
my
That would have
God.
been really nice. I would have enjoyed that. But they end up going to the finals. Unfortunately, not only, you're down Ewing and you got 2 Hall of Fame centers.
I was just going to say that they really got outsized in this final because they couldn't do anything about David Robinson. They couldn't do anything about Tim Duncan.
He was just you needed a hot island song to melt his icy
His
heart.
icy heart. No, maybe we should have a cool island song to temp his hot heart.
Get Tim Duncan a baby. Did you see the controversy with what he was talking shit about with Bill Walton?
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
What did he say? He called the Knicks a band of rebellious slaves. That's what
Yes.
Larry Johnson
Yes.
called him. And then Bill Walton called him a disgrace. And it
Yes.
just spiraled out of control from there.
Yep.
Oh, God. I don't even know what you do at that point.
No.
No.
So the Spurs sweep them, and
5.
oh, it was in 5.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh-huh.
And then they said there was shit being talked about Larry Johnson not having a good series, and it really all came back to them not having Ewing because they had no inside presence.
That was still the era of basketball where you could play in the paint.
Yes.
Like where you wanted to.
Where you
Like,
wanted to, yes.
Like there's no obviously it's not going to work out well.
No.
So you can't blame anybody.
No.
You blame injuries. Don't blame the players trying.
Yep.
Following season, Knicks win 50 games, but he's just at 10 and he's a 10-5 player. now.
Yeah, he's
And that's what's sad
Mm-hmm.
because you think back to, man, what would he have been age 28 season without the back?
yeah.
Probably still be with Charlotte if you think,
Yeah, possibly.
because he would have been playing out the rest of that deal.
That huge ass deal, yeah. Because he got traded with like 8 years left on it or some shit.
Oh, yeah. They go all the way to the conference finals that year, but they lose to the Pacers. And then by the following season, he's done.
Yeah.
Like, he plays one more year with them. And
But you could see he's just not the same player whatsoever.
October 10th, 2001, he retires just due to his chronic back problems, which is like, we do a lot of athletes like this, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because, we're trying to, not to be obscure, but like, man, what could have been with this entire window, And
Possible Hall of Famers. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Where you're like,
he would have been in.
he had that skill, he had that everything, and back problems just will kill you. You look at like a Derrick Rose, where his knee
Knees just-
exploded.
Yeah,
and then you're just like, no, he's still good, but he's nowhere near the type of player he was when he came in the league.
Steve Avery.
dude,
Like-
there's so many of these guys that this happens to.
Like, he would have been better than Glavine and Smoltz. It's like those are two of the best guys for like
I
a
know.
quarter century of baseball.
I know.
But Larry Johnson, 2-time All-Star, over 16, almost 7.5 a game. He was in Space Jam.
He was.
Forgot about that.
He was in
Wanted to bring
Space
that
Jam.
up.
He was in Family Matters as Grandmama.
Yes, he was.
So,
College basketball Hall of Famer. So he did have, only played 2 years of D1.
but
which
still, if you go back and look at those highlights, he dominated in college.
watch him just be like, that is what Zion Williamson should have been
Yeah.
without the pizza.
Yes,
Honestly.
exactly.
So,
Larry Johnson.
Grandmama.